So UFC Fight Night, Strickland versus Magomedov is going to be coming up this weekend, and this is a fantastic card. It's a shame that it's in the Apex, but I'm telling you guys, this is a great card, and I cannot wait for it. You've got some massive names on the card, top to bottom, some great guys making their debuts, a few short notice fights. It's going to be fun. It's going to be a great card. I will be live streaming during the card, but I also do want to announce that this will be the start of 2 weeks of a lot of content from me on this channel. I've got 2 weeks off from my university break, and I'm going to be making a lot of videos. I'm going to be doing live streams throughout the week. I'm just going to be making a lot of content. I've got some really good ideas for videos, so please do subscribe if you want to see more of those videos. And if you do like these sorts of prediction videos as well, I do them every single week. And now, before we do get into it as well, though, I've got my 125% sign-up bonus to BetUS right there. And also, you also do have the We Want Picks premium subscription service on the We Want Picks website. If you sign up using my code ARTEM, you will get a 3-day free trial. And it's going to be cancel at any time. You can cancel at any time throughout those 3 days. You get access to my picks. A couple of bets that I put on there. I've got articles as well. You've got Angelos, you've got Jacobs. There's also now an AI tool on there as well, so an artificial intelligence that is made to make picks. It's going to be great. It's a fantastic tool. You can sign up using my code ARTEM for a 3-day free trial. And now let's get into the card. Kicking off the card is Guram Kutateladze taking on Elves Brenner. If you guys aren't familiar, this is a short notice fight. Elves Brenner was meant to fight somebody else. They have pulled out, and now all of a sudden it's Guram Kutateladze that is going to be filling in to take on Elves Brenner. It was meant to be Jordan Levitt. So imagine you're going to fight Jordan Levitt, and then the guy that falls in on short notice is Guram Kutateladze. That is insane, right? That's pretty rough for Brenner, but Brenner is a guy that has already proven that he's willing to fight absolutely anybody. He trains at shoot box with Charles Oliveira and also Daniel Santos and those kind of guys just like that. And man, he has a fun style. You know, his fight against Zubaira Tukhugov was close. I actually did see some people argue the fight for Brenner, although most people thought Tukhugov won, but at the end of the day, Brenner won the fight. I think Tukhugov missed weight anyway, so Brenner got the win. He got rewarded with it, but now he's taking on Guram, and this is a tough fight for him, man. Guram, we've kind of seen, is like a borderline top 15 level guy. You know, split decision loss to Damir Ismagulov, which some people thought that he won, and then a split decision win over Mateusz Gamrot, which some people thought that he lost, some people thought that he won. The point is, he's having close fights with high-level competition. Now, Elves Brenner, in my opinion, this guy's pretty small for 155. I mean, this guy's fought at featherweight in the past. I wouldn't mind seeing him at featherweight again, potentially, but he does kind of have that fun, aggressive Muay Thai style, high aggressive BJJ as well, that the shooty box guys do have. But it is understandable why Guram is the big favorite here. I think Guram probably is a little bit better everywhere. If Guram wants to take it to the ground, he can do so. He can also probably win the fight on the feet as well. I do like Guram Kutateladze in this matchup. He should be able to get it done over Elves Brenner. It's going to be interesting to see, though, if there is a finish or not. But I do think Guram Kutateladze can get this one done. And now we move on to Alexander Romanov taking on Blagoy Ivanov, and this is a really hard fight to call. And it's a really sad fall from grace for Alexander Romanov, because Alexander Romanov was looked at one point as like a crazy prospect. You know, he's 16-0, and now he's 16-2, and it kind of is, maybe we're seeing why he was fighting Chase Sherman, Jared Van Dier, and Juan Espino. I mean, that Juan Espino fight was close. But anyway, the point is, like, he was like 14-0 fighting Van Dier and Sherman. So we kind of know why now, because he's kind of been a little bit exposed. You know, the fight against Marcin Tybura was close. You know, he probably should have got the 10-8 rounds in the first round. That should have been a draw. But the fight against Volkov was embarrassing, man. This guy went for a takedown against Volkov, didn't get it, and gassed out. He was done. He was done for in 2 minutes. It was unreal. This guy's got no cardio at all. I don't know if he's going to sort it out in 3 months. I don't know what's going on with Romanov. But the thing is, if he can get the takedown, if he can get you down, this guy can have a lot of success. And that's what Romanov does. He gets you down. He's got brutal ground and pound from there on. But man, I do worry about that gas tank. But the thing about Blagoy Ivanov, you know, this guy isn't the best fighter in the world either. You know, he is coming off that loss against Marcin Tybura, and that was sloppy, man. That was just sloppy heavyweights. And the fight before that was sloppy heavyweights with Marcos Rogério de Lima. I'm going to take the shot at Alexander Romanov. I did pick Romanov to lose against Volkov, and not many people did that. I'm going to go with Romanov to win by first round, ground and pound TKO. But if my pick changes to Ivanov throughout the week, I wouldn't be surprised. This is a fight to stay away from, in my opinion. Romanov decision is a weird call from Tapology. I don't know if these guys watched Alexander Volkov fight where he literally gassed out in 2 minutes. It was really weird. Hopefully Romanov is able to get that done in the first round, but now we move on to a fight which I've got a lot to say about. Joanderson Brito taking on Westin Wilson. We still don't have odds for this fight. This isn't a good fight. It's not a good fight, man. Like, you're seeing a lot of people on social media complain and stuff like that, and the reason why I'm going to kind of have a fair bit to say about this fight is I am really worried for Westin Wilson, man. Like, if you watch Joanderson Brito, I said it in my last week's breakdown about the Cheapy Mariscal fight. Have you watched this fight? That is the most brutal knockout I've ever seen. The knockout that Joanderson Brito got over Cheapy Mariscal. Cheapy Mariscal was lying unconscious on the ground for about a minute. And then when he finally woke up, he was trying to fight his coaches for about another minute. It was bad, man. Like, this is kind of emphasizing that Joanderson Brito is KO power. Nobody KOs Andre Fili like Joanderson Brito did. Like, no one does that. And now Westin Wilson, I'm watching tape on Westin Wilson, wondering where, like, he can maybe win the fight. Like, I watched him lose to Teruto Ishihara, and in this fight, man, like, Westin Wilson, he's standing super upright. The chin is up in the air. There's no movement. He's not got head movement. He's not moving anything. He's standing still, chin upright in the air, waiting to get KO'd. Teruto Ishihara just kind of throws an overhand, knocks him out stiff with one punch. That's what's going to happen here, man. Westin Wilson, it's such a bad matchup for Westin Wilson, because on the feet, he's got nothing, dude. He's really got nothing. He doesn't move his head. He doesn't move anything. I think Joanderson Brito, with the way that Brito fights, high pressure, moves forward, throws volume. It doesn't just throw volume, he throws power in those shots. And the thing is about Brito that's so dangerous is he's a grappler as well. Most of this guy's wins actually do come by submission, you know what I mean? He's not necessarily known for the KO power until he got that KO over Andre Fili. It's insane. Brito is a guy that's going to march forward and go for massive bombs, and I think he's going to land one. And whoa, it's just such a bad matchup, man. Oh, God. It's Joanderson Brito's going to knock him out in the first round, and it's probably going to be a really bad KO. I'm really a little bit worried about it, to be honest. But now we move on to Ivana Petrovic taking on Luana Carolina. Ivana Petrovic, I believe she's been signed from Aries FC. She has. She was signed from Aries FC recently as well. This is a good fight for her, I think. You know, Luana Carolina, what we know Luana Carolina is for being a Muay Thai striker, that is how she gets her fights done for the most part. She does like to strike as a Muay Thai striker. But Ivana Petrovic, she's a grappler. This is stylistically a good matchup for her, and the way that she grapples as well is going to be very good, because she is always kind of attacking for submissions, always trying to attack for positions where she can find a finish when she is on the ground. You know, she submitted Yana Wozniak, who's actually a really good fighter in the 4th round. Showed good cardio on that one there. Submitted a 2-0 girl when she was 4-0. And before that, she's just finishing girls off with ground and pound. So when this girl gets her takedowns, and when she can get her wrestling and her grappling going, she's finding a lot of success when she gets to the ground and when she's able to dominate. And I think that she is the better grappler in this matchup, in a matchup that I do believe Petrovic is going to be able to get the fight down to the ground. You know, Luana Carolina, she has shown improved takedown defense, but in the past, we have seen Luana Carolina getting taken down in the past. You know, she did have that close fight with Joanne Wood. She got KO'd by Molly McCann, which is pretty unfortunate for her, but she did manage to beat Lupita Godinez in a fight which I do believe I picked her to win, just because I thought she was going to be so much bigger than Godinez, and she was. But in this matchup, you know, Ivana Petrovic is going to be the bigger fighter, and she's going to be the one that wants it to the ground, and I do believe Petrovic can get this fight down to the mat, and I do believe once it is down on the mat, she's going to be attacking for submission. She's going to be attacking for ground and pound. She's going to be looking for a finish. She's a very exciting sort of style grappler with the way that she does actually try to finish the fight when she gets it to the ground. So I am actually going to go with Petrovic by a decision. Sorry, by a finish is what I was trying to say. Most likely by submission, in my opinion. I do have Petrovic to win this matchup. And now we move on up the card. You've got Yana Santos taking on Karol Rosa. And I do believe this is a short notice fight. I could be wrong, but I am going to take Karol Rosa. I just think that I just think that Yana Santos has not looked very good recently. You know what I mean? I know Karol has a pretty bad loss somewhat against Norma Dumont, but I did pick Norma Dumont in that fight. A lot of people were on Rosa in that fight, but Norma Dumont is a good fighter. You know, she's probably the best 145-pounder they've got, aside from Nunes, which I don't really know how much that really means, because it almost feels like this division might not exist soon, because Dana White has kind of mentioned that 145 pounds might be going away, but, you know, that's, who knows what's going to happen there. But Yana Santos, I just feel like Yana Santos has kind of, she slowed down. I don't feel like Yana Santos is the same fighter anymore that she once was, you know. Like, when she fought Holly Holm, I mean, it's Holly Holm, right? But Holly Holm looks really, really good in that matchup. Yana Santos didn't really look so much. And then it was a long time ago when she fought Irene Aldana. And this was where the concern was, because it turned out that when she fought Irene Aldana, she was pregnant during that fight. And that was like a little bit scary moment. But she didn't seem to kind of have a lot for Holly Holm. Like, Holly Holm was able to get the wrestling going. Holly Holm was able to get on top and land ground and pounds. It was a really, really good performance for Holly Holm, and it made Holly Holm look really, really good. Now, in this matchup, though, Karol Rosa, she can kind of do kind of anything. Like, she is a pretty well-rounded fighter, but I think she can have success anywhere the fight goes. You know, it's a 145 pounds. Rosa's fought at 145 in the past. I don't know if Santos has. I think that Rosa is probably the fighter that can get it done. But it's just a fight that I'm just going to stay away from, honestly. I don't really know how to feel about this fight, but what I do know is Yana Santos, I feel like, is definitely going down. And Karol Rosa is still like 28 years old, making improvements, that sort of thing. She probably is going to have to go back down to women's bantamweight if 145 does disappear. But I've got Rosa in this matchup. I do think it goes the distance. But yeah, we'll move on to the next fight, which is going to be a bit of a talk. I think a lot of people are going to talk about this matchup, and I think for a lot of different reasons. The first thing is, it's Kevin Lee's return to the UFC, and secondly, it's Rinat Fakhretdinov, who is very, very, very hyped as a prospect, and in my opinion, might be a little bit overhyped. I am going to pick Rinat Fakhretdinov in this matchup, but my foot is still halfway on the brake on Rinat Fakhretdinov. I'm not entirely sold on him yet. Yes, he dominated Bryan Battle, but Bryan Battle for the most part is a striker. You know, we haven't really seen him tested in the wrestling. Battle is a fantastic grappler though, so I will give it to Fakhretdinov to be able to defend. So keep on top of Battle for 14 minutes, and Battle really have nothing off his back in that matchup. He beat Andreas Michailidis, but we know that Andreas Michailidis is also a striker. He knocked out Eric Spicely, former UFC fighter, but before that, you know, before the Alberto Wade fight, he really wasn't fighting the best level of competition. But now that he's in the UFC, this is a step up in competition for him. Kevin Lee is a big step up in competition from Bryan Battle and Andreas Michailidis, and I do think it probably is a test that Rinat Fakhretdinov will be able to pass. Now, but it's interesting though, because I always have felt like Kevin Lee was always quite undersized at 170 pounds. But it seems like Kevin Lee feels like he's too big for 155. It seems like Kevin Lee feels like he can't make 155 again, so he's really going to be committing to 170. He did have that fight, I believe it was at 165 pounds, when he took on Diego Sanchez. That was a really bad performance from Kevin Lee. It really was. He did win the fight, obviously, he did kind of get everything going, but he made that fight way too close. Like, Diego Sanchez was having a lot of success with the leg kicks in that fight. And if you do go back, like, he did lose a couple of fights. You know, he didn't look that good against D-Rod, who fought him on short notice, I believe. Charles Oliveira beat him. You know, somewhat close fight before that. But, I don't know, like, there's just kind of a lot of questions surrounding Kevin Lee's return. And I think we're going to find them out here, because I genuinely do believe Kevin Lee does have a chance to win this fight. And I might be the only human on the planet that believes that. So that is why I'm going to go with Rinat Fakhretdinov. But I do think you might have to pump the brakes a little bit on Rinat. I'm not entirely sold yet. I know he's got a fantastic record. If you do look through it though, there is a few wins in there that just, you know, like, come on, man. He's 15-2 fighting a 3-3 guy. 1-1, debuting. I mean, like, come on, man. Like, there's a lot of dodginess going on in this record, man. Like, it looks fantastic now, but it's really because he built it up over time. So it'll be interesting to see what happens here. I think Rinat Fakhretdinov wins a decision. I think it could be close. We know that Kevin Lee's got that wrestling. Maybe Kevin Lee's the better striker, because Rinat Fakhretdinov is pretty sloppy on the feet. He is. And it'll be interesting to see what Kevin Lee kind of brings to this game. But I am going to pick Fakhretdinov to win by decision. But I think it's going to be closer than people think. I don't think Rinat Fakhretdinov's just going to go out there and dominate Kevin Lee. I'm willing to be wrong on this one here, but I'm still going to just pump the brakes a little bit on Rinat before I kind of say he's like one of the best prospects at welterweight, you know? So just give it a little bit of time. If Rinat wins this fight, He deserves a probably like borderline top 15 or a top 15 opponent. Maybe he fights Neil Magny, who's going to be looking for an opponent soon. So let's have a look. Let's find out. And then we move on. Nursulton, Ruziboev taking on Brunno Ferreira. I think I might be going with an underdog in this one here. We haven't got the odds for this matchup yet, but I do have a little sneaky suspicion that Nursulton Ruziboev is going to be the underdog, and he is my pick. I actually am going to pick Nursulton Ruziboev in this matchup to defeat Brunno Ferreira. Now, there's a lot of different reasons in this matchup, but I do think it might just come down to the fact that I've seen Ruziboev, you know, be able to last longer than Brunno Ferreira. Brunno Ferreira is a guy that I don't think has ever seen the third round in his entire career. He hasn't, but he does seem to slow down a little bit when the fight does go towards the end of the first and the second round. He doesn't seem to be a guy that's got a lot of cardio, you know. Against Gregory Rodriguez, before he got that insane KO. And one thing I will point out is I picked Brunno Ferreira to win this fight as a plus 255 underdog. Very proud pick of mine. One of the bigger underdogs I've picked that ended up being correct, and I'm very glad that I made that pick. But I don't like this matchup for him, man. I know Brunno Ferreira does have fantastic grappling. I believe he's got like a blue purple belt in BJJ. I could be wrong. But I know Brunno Ferreira can grapple, but Ruziboev is going to make him grapple. Now, Ruziboev isn't necessarily a guy that's always going to be forcing the grappling. He does have a very, very significant amount of wins by submission on his record, but he isn't necessarily a guy that's going to be forcing takedowns. He's not going to be forcing takedowns all the time. He's kind of going to let them come to him. He's a decent striker. He's not the best striker in the world. A lot of people are kind of clowning his record, saying that he's only beating bums and stuff like that, but a lot of these guys that he's fighting are short notice replacements, you know what I mean? That are just replacing other opponents that pulled out of fights with him. So you can't really blame him for the level of competition that he has been fighting recently. But earlier on in his career, he did do a little bit of Rinat Fakhretdinov record padding, you know what I mean? But it doesn't matter. It's in the past now. It is pretty ironic, actually, that I did kind of call out Rinat for it and not Nursulton. But anyway, sorry about that, guys. The thing is about Ruziboev as well. This guy's huge. This guy's 6'4". He's fought at 170 pounds in the past. I think 170 is more of his natural weight class, but I think he probably will be able to fill out into a middleweight frame a lot better. I like Brunno Ferreira. I think he's fun, but this guy is sloppy on the feet. He is. He's very powerful, but he is sloppy on the feet. He seemed to be a lot more patient against Gregory Rodriguez, but I can see Nursulton Ruziboev kind of pushing a wrestling pace on him and really slowing him down and gassing him out over time, pushing that wrestling pace. Most of his wins are in the first round, but it's because he isn't fighting the best guys. I've got Ruziboev to win by submission in this matchup, maybe in the second or the third round. I do believe Ruziboev is a good underdog, and he is an underdog that I'm willing to pick in this matchup. And now we move on up the card. You got Benoit Saint-Denis taking on Ismael Bonfim, and I'm an Ismael Bonfim fan, man. I'm 2-0 in Ismael Bonfim picks on my channel, and couldn't be happier. I could not be happier. There's a lot of people out there that are 0-2. A lot of people out there picked Terence McKinney to defeat Ismael Bonfim. A lot of people out there picked Nariman Abasov to pick Ismael Bonfim, and I'm gonna say this about those fights. People that picked Nariman Abasov to defeat Ismael Bonfim did not watch the tape. If you watch that tape, actually if you watch my prediction video for that fight, I actually broke down the tape on the screen, I believe. I believe it's still up there. Nariman Abasov only throws hooks and overhands. He's a sloppy fighter. We're talking about a former Brazilian amateur boxing champion multiple times over, professional boxer, former professional boxer as well in Ismael Bonfim, and he's fighting a guy that just throws sloppy. Of course he was going to win. And then once again, Ismael Bonfim, we're talking about a Brazilian national boxing champion fighting Terence McKinney. If you picked Terence McKinney to beat Ismael Bonfim, you didn't watch the tape. You just didn't watch the tape. It's as simple as that. Ismael Bonfim completely outclassed Terence McKinney on the feet in that matchup. Just completely outclassed him. Was so much better on the feet. You know, made reads on it. Actually, to be fair, the MMA Guru made a very good breakdown of that fight. You could see Terence McKinney was so off balance in that fight. He was throwing shots and he's falling over almost. His chin was up in the air. Bonfim was able to crack him, made a good read, time to fly and knee, knocked him out. A career-changing KO loss for Terence McKinney. Beautiful work from Bonfim. Once again, you gotta watch the tape on fights like this. This is an interesting one because Benoit Saint-Denis is gonna grapple him. Benoit Saint-Denis, for the most part, he's a grappler and he's a damn good one at that. This guy's got 8 wins by submission, but the last time we saw Benoit Saint-Denis was against Gabriel Miranda, and Gabriel Miranda, we kind of learnt, is a little bit, he's a fraud. We learned that Gabriel Miranda is a fraud. I'm just going to say it how it is. That is what we learned in that fight. He did get absolutely smoked by Aleksei Zaleski. That was an absolute domination of a loss, but that was upper weight class on short notice. You can't blame him too much for that. And before that, he was beating good guys. 13-4, 15-4, 6-2. Good regional level guys. The problem is Ismael Bonfim, I believe, is the best striker that he's ever fought. And I think Ismael Bonfim is a good enough wrestler to stuff the takedowns. I think he's a good enough wrestler to keep the fight on the feet. And he's so much better on the feet in this matchup. I think he's going to be patient. I think he's going to be reserved. I think he's going to know that Benoit Saint-Denis is going to want to take him down. But I think that Bonfim just pieces him up on the feet, man. I don't know if he gets a KO, because we know Benoit Saint-Denis is a really, really tough guy. But I do believe that Bonfim at least wins a decision in this matchup by beating him up on the feet. But if Saint-Denis wins this fight, it's with the grappling. I'll be surprised if he gets a KO. But it's Benoit Saint-Denis. If he wants to win this fight, he has to get it down to the ground. But I think that Ismael Bonfim is going to show good enough takedown defense to keep the fight on the feet. And one thing that Ismael Bonfim did show in his Dana White's Contender Series fight is really, really good takedown defense against Nariman Abasov, who did try and take him down in that matchup. I think he can keep the fight on the feet against Benoit Saint-Denis and beat him up on the feet to a decision or to win by knockout. And as we move up the card, you've got Ariane Lipski taking on Melissa Gatto. And this is a matchup which is interesting because at one point Melissa Gatto was a very, very highly touted prospect that everybody's really looking forward to watching. And unfortunately, she did lose to Tracy Cortez in a fight which she was just way too content to be off her back. But if you got to kind of imagine this, and Melissa Gatto at the time was 8-0 in the fight, you know, 8-0 with a lot of finishes. She had 2 finishes in the UFC as well. One of them over Sijara Eubanks, who was always tough. And then she took on Tracy Cortez. I thought she was going to beat Tracy Cortez. Gatto is a really, really good striker. And, you know, Cortez was just able to take down Gatto, and Gatto was just really, really content to stay on her back, which was not really the best look in the world. But I think that she should be able to beat Ariane Lipski in this matchup. Now, Ariane Lipski is an interesting fighter because she seems to have a lot of ups and downs in her career. She is coming off that really, really good win over JJ Aldrich, which I think is a really good win because JJ Aldrich, although she doesn't have a good record, she was minus 360 in that fight, and JJ Aldrich is just a fighter that's kind of been around the UFC for a very, very long time. She even beat Jillian Robertson and Vanessa Demopoulos, if you consider that to be a good win. But the point is, sometimes Ariane Lipski has good wins, sometimes she doesn't. I mean, she beat Mandy Bolm, but Mandy Bolm is probably one of the worst fighters in the UFC right now. Got KO'd by Cachoeira in a minute, which is a big shame, but Lipski's a decent striker for the most part. You know, she can grapple as well, but for the most part, I probably would say Lipski is the fighter that wants it on the ground, on the feet, and Gatto is the one that's going to want it on the ground in this matchup. However, Melissa Gatto can strike as well, and I'm actually looking forward to seeing Melissa Gatto for the first time in over a year, because at one point I genuinely was really hyped up on Melissa Gatto. I really thought that Melissa Gatto could go on to do something in the sport, do something in the UFC, rise up the rankings, and unfortunately, she did get turned away by Tracy Cortez, who is a ranked fighter right now, so not really a bad loss to have. And in that fight, as I said, she was just way too content to be on her back. You know, she was throwing up subs, but she just had no intentions whatsoever to get the fight up off the ground and get it back onto the feet, where she probably was the better striker. I'm going with Gatto in this matchup. It's going to be interesting though to see maybe can Lipski have like a great fight like she did against Aldrich in her last one, but I do think Gatto should be able to get it done in this matchup. And now we move on to a big test for Michael Morales. You know, I really do like Michael Morales as a fighter, but this is a big step up in competition for him because Max Griffin is no joke as a fighter. He's a good fighter, you know, and I'm going to pick Michael Morales. I really do believe in Michael Morales. If I'm not mistaken, I think Michael Morales is like an Ecuadorian wrestling champion and an Ecuadorian Muay Thai champion. So we know that he's a pretty good base for MMA. He's got good striking and he's got good wrestling. He can mix it up, and he does mix it up very well. He's done so well in his career so far. He beat Nikolai Verotnikov, who is a decent fighter. And then he went on to beat Trevin Giles by finish. And I thought that was going to be a pretty tough fight for him. And then he took on Adam Fugit. But Adam Fugit kind of has proven to be a pretty tough fighter for a lot of fighters, but Mike Malott was able to get through him easily, which kind of does maybe raise a little bit of concern for that Michael Morales fight, because Fugit was able to give Morales a little bit of trouble in that matchup. But now he takes on Max Griffin, and Max Griffin's a good fighter, man. Like, a lot of people think that he actually beat Neil Magny in that fight. And then there are a couple of people that think he might have lost to Tim Means, but that was a pretty close fight. Griffin probably won it, to be fair. Griffin was probably the more deserving winner in that matchup. But against Neil Magny, I believe he dropped Neil Magny early and actually had a lot of success early on in that fight. He's got good wins over veterans, you know, kind of beat Ramiz Brahimaj up really, really badly. Like, that ear injury was quite nasty. But I'm going to go with Morales here. This is interesting, though, because I think Max Griffin really could be a really good underdog that I think a lot of people potentially could pick. But I am going to go with the shiny, undefeated fighter and Michael Morales. He's 24 years old. I'm telling you guys, this guy is going to be making rapid improvements. You know, he's only 24, hasn't fought in almost a year. He's ready to try and rise up the ranks. So this is going to be a very, very big test for him, though. But I do believe Michael Morales can put it all together. He's a great striker. He's a great wrestler. He really can do it all. Now, going into Dana White's Contender Series, I was actually a little bit worried about the level of competition because for the most part, he really wasn't fighting the best guys. But then he went out there, he beat Nikolai Veretennikov, and then he went on to beat Trevin Giles. And that's a really, really good win to especially get in the first round. Then he beat Adam Fugit, and now he's taking on Max Griffin. A huge, huge step up in competition. I cannot emphasize that enough. Max Griffin's going to be gritty. He's going to be there for all 3 rounds. He's going to be trying to pressure forward. It's going to be up to Michael Morales to try and land that big shot to get the respect of Max Griffin and maybe even take him down if he wants to as well. It's going to be interesting to see kind of the game plan that Michael Morales tries to adapt into this matchup. But I do believe Michael Morales does win. I think he wins. I'm going to go with a decision. I kind of trust Max Griffin in this matchup. I respect Max Griffin in the matchup. I'm going to go with Morales by decision. Maybe he can find the KO, but I'm going to go with Michael Morales to win a decision over Max Griffin in this matchup. And now we move on to the co-main and the main event. The co-main event is going to be Damir Ismakilov taking on Grant Dawson. And I am going to be going with Damir Ismakilov to defeat Grant Dawson in this matchup here. Grant Dawson has had a lot of success in the UFC. In fact, he's gone undefeated in the lightweight division, which is very, very impressive, going 7-0. But the problem is, man, like, there's so many little asterisks on these wins, you know, like he did get a couple of good wins when he first came into the UFC, to be fair. Rosa's a pretty good win, Trezano is a pretty good win, and Derek Minner at the time, it wasn't a bad win. But then Narimani, you don't see him anymore. Leonardo Santos is a 40-year-old man. Going to a draw with Ricky Glenn is not the best look. Jared Gordon is Jared Gordon, and the Mark Madsen performance was very impressive, but he kind of did what everyone just expected him to do, and that was out-wrestle Mark Madsen and use his sort of wrestling base and beat the Greco-Roman wrestling that Mark Madsen has. I believe it's Greco-Roman wrestling that Mark Madsen has a silver medal in. But we kind of did expect that from Grant Dawson. That was a performance that was expected. We expected Grant Dawson to go out there and out-wrestle and out-grapple the silver medalist in wrestling, but in a different style of wrestling in Mark Madsen. That's what he did. Now, Damir Ismakilov is an interesting case, right? Like, this guy, he hasn't been active since he was in the UFC, you know, beat Joel Alvarez and beat a bunch of really, really good fighters. And he's a striker for the most part. I mean, he can get takedowns and he can wrestle, and he does have good takedown defense. But after he lost to Arman Sarukian, he kind of had a little bit of a meltdown in a way. Like, he retired and now he's back. Like, we don't really know what's going on. Maybe Damir Ismakilov, him losing to Arman Sarukian, was maybe, like, in his belief, in his mind, potentially him thinking that he wasn't good enough to be a champion, you know, because obviously when you go 24-1, you think you're the best in the world, right? And obviously every single fighter that is fighting thinks that they're the best in the world, but for Damir Ismakilov, unfortunately, that might have just been a really hard hit, not to the ego, just kind of a hard hit to his self-belief in himself to become a world champion, and maybe he just didn't really deal with it too well, which is a little bit of a worrying factor going into this fight. However, I do believe that his skill set is going to be enough to be able to defeat and to turn away Grant Dawson in this matchup, so I do pick Damir Ismakilov. At the end of the day, though, in that matchup against Arman Sarukian shot for 21 takedowns, and Damir Ismakilov defended 14 of them. So although he did get taken down 7 times, that meant that when he fought Arman Sarukian, he defended 14 takedowns and was able to stand up often because he got taken down so often. So although he did lose, and he did get out-wrestled, he did still show, like, kind of promise, and I think against a guy like Grant Dawson, who I'm still not entirely sold on yet. I think Damir Ismakilov can defend the takedowns. I think he can keep the fight on the feet. And I do think he can beat Grant Dawson. Another thing that Grant Dawson has struggled with, which is interesting because he used to fight at 145, he can't make weight at 155. You know, he missed weight against Mark Madsen. He's missed weight in the past. He's had bad cardio towards the end of the fights. He does gas out towards the end if things don't necessarily go his way. And even if things are going his way, he still can slow down quite a bit. So it's going to be a very interesting matchup for many, many reasons. But I do believe that Ismael will keep the fight on the feet. If he wants to, he can go for takedowns. He doesn't do that often, but he can go for takedowns. He took down Rafael Elves twice. But I think that Ismael keeps the fight on the feet. I think he beats Grant Dawson on the feet in this matchup, and I do think he's going to be able to get it done by decision. Ismael hasn't got a finish in a long time, I don't think, and I don't see him getting a finish against Grant Dawson. So give me Ismael to win it by decision. And this main event is interesting, and I'm just going to come out here, and I'm just going to say straight up, I'm picking Sean Strickland. And I'm going to say something that, although is maybe controversial, in my mind, I believe this to be 100% true. If you are picking Abus Magomedov, you're not picking Abus Magomedov based on a lot of evidence, like, at all. Like, if someone's out there saying that there's super high confidence in Abus Magomedov, it's probably more of a Sean Strickland fade than confidence in Abus Magomedov. And the reason why I say this, I've got many, many different reasons for saying this. The inactivity of Abus Magomedov, man. You've got no evidence to go off with this guy. He fought 9 months ago against Dustin Stoltzfus, and the last time he fought before that was 2.5 years ago against Cezarius Kissick. And that was a really good, actually, performance, a good guillotine choke, which he managed to get over a really good fighter. But unfortunately, I don't believe the win has aged too well, which is a shame, but it is a great win, especially at the time. It was a good, very good guillotine that he kind of pulled off. It started standing, and then he kind of worked it down. And then before that, he beat a debuting guy. Like, the evidence that you have to go for Abus Magomedov is 5 fights in the last 4.5 years or so, and 2 fights in the last 2.5 years. So there is so much time in between these fights. You know, he had about 1.5 years off, and he fought Dustin Stoltzfus, and he looked great. But he finished the fight in 20 seconds. We didn't get to see what Abus Magomedov really brings to the table. We didn't get to see what Abus Magomedov can do if he gets hurt, if he gets taken down, if he gets pressured, all this sort of thing. The KO just happened in 20 seconds. So we don't have evidence to pick Abus Magomedov in this matchup, and that is why I'm going with Sean Strickland, but a very low confidence pick. And it is because I don't know how good Abus Magomedov is, and I don't believe anybody should be able to make a claim on how good Abus Magomedov is right now. I can tell you how good Abus Magomedov was 2.5 years ago when he was somewhat more active, but I cannot tell you how good he is right now because he's taken 9 months off. Fighters very often make rapid improvements in 9 months, and he's not only taken 9 months off from that, he was coming off 1.5 years off since he fought this 12-0 opponent, Cezarius Kissick, over in KSW. So he's obviously made rapid improvements in those 16 months, but we didn't really get to see it because he knocked this guy out in 19 seconds. And now he's got 9 months off again. So maybe Abus Magomedov is better than Sean Strickland. But I don't know that. I can't tell that. And I can't just pick Abus Magomedov because I genuinely don't have a lot of evidence that would suggest that he could beat Sean Strickland for the reason of... Genuinely for the reason of he's been so inactive, I just don't know how good he is. But we have seen him lose before. You know, he does have 4 losses in his record. He got KO'd by Lewis Taylor in 33 seconds. Unfortunate loss, but it does happen. He beat Sadibou Sai. I believe this is actually 170 pounds. It was 185. Sorry, I lied. He beat him at 185 pounds, but Sai's now a welterweight. And then way back when you're looking at 2015 for losses, and that's just kind of like, you're reaching for losses at that point. So he's beaten really good opponents throughout his whole career. I'm not too sure why he had so much time off. You know, I guess the fact that a lot of cancelled fights happened for various reasons was probably a big part of that. But now Abus Magomedov is here. He's getting a ranked opponent in Sean Strickland. And I don't know how to really pick the fight. I do like the fight. I'm going to go out and say I do like the fight. A lot of people are probably going to go out there and say they don't like it at all. I do. This is why I like the fight. The UFC needs more contenders for Israel Adesanya. They need him because Israel Adesanya has beaten everybody in the top 5. He's beaten pretty much everybody in the top 10 for the most part, and they don't want to keep doing rankings for Israel Adesanya. They want more contenders, and if Sean Strickland wins this fight, he's all of a sudden potentially a title contender to fight Israel Adesanya for the title. And then if Abus Magomedov wins this fight, all of a sudden, he's also a potential title contender, especially if he can finish the fight in the first round. Like, come on. If Abus Magomedov goes out there and dominates Sean Strickland, all of a sudden we're looking at Abus Magomedov as potentially fighting for the title. Honestly, that's a reality that we could live in. However, I think Abus Magomedov, if he beats Strickland, he's probably one fight away. Maybe he would have to fight a top guy. Maybe he would have to fight Jared Cannonier for the title shot. I think if Sean Strickland wins this fight, I think the UFC would probably be pretty happy to do Sean Strickland versus Israel Adesanya, because Strickland does have a little bit of a past with the press conference. He would sell the fight. I mean, he's a good like personality to have at a press conference because he's funny. He gets the crowd worked up. He really involves the crowd in the press conference. And Abus Magomedov, on the other hand, if he beats Sean Strickland, you're probably looking at Abus Magomedov versus Jared Cannonier for a title shot, or Abus Magomedov versus Khamzat Chimaev. Honestly, something like that. You're gonna be looking at something insane like that. Now, the situation with this fight, though, is, as I did kind of touch on at the start of me talking about this fight, there isn't a lot of evidence out there that means that Abus wins, and that is true. One thing I can tell you, though, about this fight is Sean Strickland, I would be surprised if he went to his takedowns. I've talked about Sean Strickland's wrestling for so long now. Strickland does have good wrestling that he used to use, and he doesn't use it anymore. You know, he kind of used it against Ivanov, but he didn't need to, because he kind of just beat up Ivanov on the feet and got a takedown here and there. I think he only got one takedown in the fight. Against Jared Cannonier, didn't shoot for a single takedown. Would have probably benefited his chance of getting that decision if he did. I do think Cannonier won that fight. I think I'm in the minority, but I thought that he won. Against Alex Pereira, I'm going to go out and say it. I picked Sean Strickland to win that fight. I mean, I thought he was going to wrestle. I genuinely did. I thought he was going to wrestle. But what does Sean Strickland do? He stands there, does what he does. This is how Sean Strickland defends punches. He's kind of got a very interesting style where he does move his head. He does have decent head movement. But for the most part, his kind of style of defending punches is when someone punches, he'll kind of slap the punch away. So like you punch and then it gets pulled away. You know what I mean? It's actually a pretty common technique for defending a lot of body kicks, to kind of scoop it, you know, and kind of follow the momentum. But Sean Strickland does it with the punches, and he kind of just likes to slap. Sometimes he can pull, but he likes to slap the punches away. And if you like, you know, like he can slap a punch and then follow up. But you know what I mean? That's how Sean Strickland likes to defend punches. He did that against Alex Pereira. It didn't work. He did that against Ivanov. It did work. He did it against Jared Cannonier. It didn't really work. Sean Strickland does have a very strange stance, and he does look a little bit silly when he does fight, honestly, just because he kind of has his hands quite open up here, and he's kind of slapping away. It's pretty funny, but Abus Magomedov, dude, like, we don't know anything about this guy, and that is true. We don't know anything about him. We don't know if he's got 5-round cardio. We don't know if he's going to go out there and try and wrestle Sean Strickland. We don't know if he's got really good jiu-jitsu. We don't know if he's going to go out there and just throw up front kicks like he did against Stoltzfus. Like, we just don't know these things, man. We don't know how good he is. And another thing I'm going to say about Abus Magomedov is most of his wins are in the first round. We don't know if this guy's got 5-round cardio. We don't know anything about him. We really don't. And it's worth noting that I would recommend you to not bet on this fight. And the reason why I say that is we genuinely know nothing about Abus Magomedov. And that is the truth. We don't know anything about him. And you might say, oh, well, that means that you didn't do your research. Well, actually, I did. But you've got to consider this. I'm watching fights that are 4 years old. Trying to think, oh, wow, like, so we did this 4 years ago. He's going to do it again. I was 16 years old 4 years ago, mate. I was still in high school. Like, Jesus. Mate, like, I don't know. Like, I just don't know. I think Abus Magomedov is probably a much different fighter than he was in these fights that he was managing to watch about him way back in the day. Like, he can wrestle. He can strike. You know, he can grapple. But can he do it at Sean Strickland's level? I don't know. And the reason why I don't know is a mix of things. He has fought very good competition outside of the UFC, which is a very big plus for him. But he hasn't fought often, man. That's the problem. This inactivity really doesn't give me a very good gauge at all on how good Abus Magomedov is. So I am picking Sean Strickland to win a decision in this matchup. I think it could be key that Magomedov, the cardio could be a question. Maybe Magomedov goes out there and has a good first round and beats Sean Strickland in the first round. Or maybe he goes out there and wins the first 2 rounds, but he slows down and Strickland takes over towards the end. We've seen Strickland go 5 rounds. We saw Strickland go 5 rounds against Cannonier. We saw him go 5 rounds on short notice against Ivanov, upper weight class as well, carrying a little bit more weight around. We know Strickland can go 5 rounds. We don't even know if Abus Magomedov can go 3 rounds at the moment. We don't know that. The last time he would have gone 3 rounds would have been 5 years ago. He hasn't gone 3 rounds in 5 years. Like, come on, man. We've got no evidence whatsoever that suggests that Abus Magomedov wins this fight. And people that are picking Abus Magomedov, they're just trying to jump on a hype train that hasn't really got rolling yet. They're trying to start the hype train. They're basing this pick off no evidence whatsoever. It's either a Sean Strickland fade or they're jumping on a hype train that they're trying to start. I don't know what it is. I don't know why I'm seeing a lot of people out there picking Abus Magomedov to win this. They're not picking based off evidence. They're not, because there isn't a lot of evidence whatsoever that supports an Abus Magomedov pick. If you think that you've got some, let me know in the comments below. But based off fights, we don't have really anything. Honestly, you can say, oh, well, he's training with these people. He's training with these people. This person said that they had a good sparring session with him. Like, it doesn't mean anything when it comes to the fight. So I've got Sean Strickland, low confidence pick. I think he wins a decision. Let me know what you think in the comments below. As I said earlier in the video, in the intro, subscribe to my channel because I'm going to be pumping out content like none other, mate. I've got 2 weeks of crazy videos planned. There's going to be so much content coming out on this channel. It's going to be insane. And with that being said, if you made it this far and you haven't liked the video, please do leave a comment as well. Let me know what you think of the card. Let me know what you think of my picks. Let me know if you agree. Let me know if you disagree. Let me know if you think I'm a genius. Let me know if you think I'm an idiot. Let me know if you think I'm a bit of both. I really do want to know, especially with this main event. It's such a iffy fight. It could go either way. I'm very interested to see a lot of different takes on this matchup. So let me know what you think, and I will see you guys in the next video as well. Thank you guys so much for watching. I do really appreciate it.